You know what the craziest thing about Marshall's playground is?
What's that?
Well, it's the little differences.
Example?
Well, I mean, like over at Marshall's playground, you walk in and watch a movie, they say you're a ginger ale.
Oh,
And I don't mean no little ginger ale in no paper cup. No, I mean a full-size ginger ale in a glass, boy.
you don't say.
Yeah, and you know what they call a quarter pound with cheese over there?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Well, heck no, boy, they can't even count. They ain't going over what a quarter
Hmm,
pounder is. No, they call it the Royale Flush with cheese.
interesting. What do they call a Big Mac?
Oh, well, that's easy, boy. They call that the Ben Trainer. 'Cause he's a Mac Daddy.
You ain't kidding. I swear if I was a fly on the wall, I'd want to go eat there right now. Anyway, we gotta get back to what we were doing. Do your thing.
No, boy, you do it. I want you to do it. I think you do it better.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot right here in my heart. That's where I'm pointing. Okay, well, here I go. Hey, drink cup. What does the other guy look like?
What?
What restaurant you work at?
Whataburger! Whataburger!
A Whataburger ain't no restaurant I ever heard of. They serve curly fries at Whataburger.
Whataburger?
Curly fries, mother lover. You ever eat them?
Yes.
Then you know what I'm saying.
No, not really.
Describe what the other guy looks like.
Whataburger?
I didn't ask you everyone. Say Whataburger one more time. Say Whataburger one more time. I dare you. I double dare you, mother lover. Say Whataburger one more time.
He's ugly.
You're dang right he is. Now what else?
He's bald.
Oh, what? No, I think you got him mixed up with Kmart. The other guy's the other one.
Yeah, he's the other one. Does he look like a Rooney Dooney?
What?
Close enough.
Oh, don't spray me with your aerosol cans.
Does he look like a Rooney Dooney?
No.
Yes, he does. Now what about the playground, though? Do they look like a bunch of Rooney Doonies?
No.
Then why you try to treat them like a bunch of Rooney Doonies?
I didn't. I didn't.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You went on his podcast. And the other guy can't have nobody on his podcast except for Marceline Playground.
I smell Tex-Mex candy.
What?
Again with the Whataburger.
No, don't spray me with the aerosol. I mean, look, if you guys are going to keep doing this, then I'm afraid you are not invited to my club anymore, okay? I can't keep doing this crap. I mean, every karaoke night, you guys come over and I end up tied up to a chair and left in someone's backyard, or I gotta watch a green guy twirl a shirt around his head, or I gotta watch the bald guy with his robot wife while they're watching the gumbo head sing No Doubt, and I just can't do this crap anymore.
That's not why we're here, and you know it.
Yeah,
I know it was you that called my wife last week with all those
Yeah.
stupid
yeah,
questions.
we know. Yeah, like, what's your favorite scary movie and stuff like that?
Hang on. How'd you know what he said?
Because we're the ones that did it.
What? No, it wasn't us. It was because the drink cup told us, you pervert, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now, here, Kmart, take this grapefruit and grind his head with it. Pulp Friction, mother grabber.
What? No, I was tied up. I didn't even know it was their house till after the fact.
Yeah, neither did we, but sure enough it was, and here we are.
Yeah, so take your medicine, drink cup. Get him, Kmart, get him.
You think we can go right now? I'm kind of hungry, and I want me a Royale Flush with cheese. And I got a tinkle.
Yeah, let's go back.
You hang on, fellas. You think I could come over?
No, I think you had better stay here and just think about what you've done.
What a Rooney Dooney. Quit calling my wife.
Cowabunga, dudes and dudettes. Welcome to another episode of It's Just a Regular Show, and in parentheses, about the regular show, close parentheses. I'm your host, Kirkland, probably the only one you've ever heard of, and that's okay, once again. This week we've got a great episode on tap, Party Pete. So without further ado, let's get into that bad boy. Whoa-wee, the vocal reduction from Ozone Rebalances. And leaving a little bit of ringing there on that song. Anyway, yeah, this week we got Party Pete. I watched it 2 or 3 times in preparation for this episode, and I'm going to be watching it again. I'm going to probably skip a lot of the banter about music and video games and whatnot for the time being. Probably come back to that, in a few weeks. Once we get to a date where things change up a little bit. Once again, I'm guessing Bruno Mars is still somewhere there at the top. Probably Kenny Chesney, too. I guess in place of that, I do want to mention, for some reason it popped in my head, Star Ocean: The Second Story, a video game that came out on PlayStation 1. I think it got a remake recently. Maybe it is. I don't know. Haven't really been keeping up with all that, but I will vouch and say that I really, really enjoyed that game. Now, it's not Final Fantasy VII. It's actually a very different type of game. It's not necessarily turn-based. You actually move your character around the battlefield and all that jazz, and there's a little bit of button mashing to go along with it. But it's a very, very fun RPG. It's much more complex RPG type of mechanics, or I guess maybe adventure type of storyline mechanics, I guess, than Final Fantasy VII had. The choices you make impact a lot of different things. So if you get certain characters, you can't get other characters in a playthrough, so on and so forth. But very, very frustrating game at the time because there was grinding involved if you didn't understand the mechanics of gameplay a lot. But it was a rewarding experience over experience. I don't know what that is. Who knows? Anything can happen on this show. Woo-wee. No, it was a very very interesting and fun experience going through and replaying that game several times as a child. But yeah, it was it's up there on the top PlayStation 1 RPGs, I would say, and I'm glad it's getting, at least I think it's getting a remake. I'm glad, or maybe a remaster or something, I don't know. I'm glad it's getting some time back in the sun again, though. Pretty decent music, too, from what I remember. It was no Final Fantasy VII, don't get me wrong, but it was, interesting. I don't know why that popped in my head, but seems like it did today. So I guess that will serve in place of the media talk for the time, because there's some other little side tangents here that I'm going to be bringing up here from time to time. I've already looked into this, and I know they're going to be coming up. So how's about we just get right into the episode? Now, Party Pete was released February 21st, 2011 in the USA, September 7th, 2011 in the UK. Production code 209 because it's the 9th episode of the second season. Directed by Mike Roth. Written and storyboarded by Ben Connor and Calvin Wong. It's, I guess before we even begin, I will go ahead and say that this seems like a different type of episode than what we have been getting. Not too far off base, but it does seem a little, I don't even want to say unconventional for the regular show, but it's just different. It's not necessarily a bad episode, but it's a different kind of good. That is evidenced a little bit, at least, by Party Pete becoming a more popular side character. I think he makes a return in like 4 or 5 episodes. And I will say, I think the one, I know there's one called Party Repeat, and I'm not sure if that's the one I'm thinking of, but there's one where there's a character, Benson becomes Party Benson. And I will say, I think that is a better episode, a much better episode than this one, at least just going off of what I remember about it. But that's not to say that this one is bad. Just the fact that it has Party Pete in it is, that's pretty good in itself. Anyway, the characters, Mordecai is voiced by J.G. Quintel, Rigby is William Salyers, Pops Benson, Muscle Man, Sam Marin, Skips, and a character called Jerk is voiced by Mark Hamill, Party Pete, and then a character called Guy, and then a centaur is voiced by Jeff Glenn Bennett, character called Host, Centaur number 2, and Dude. I love the character names. They're Guy, Dude, Jerk. But Dude is voiced by Nolan North. He did some, I don't know if I've talked about him before. I think I have, but he was in the 2007 TMNT movie. He voiced in that. He's voiced in Uncharted video games, some of the Lego superhero games. So yeah. And then Chrissy and Janet are voiced by Janie Haddad. Or are voiced by Janie Haddad, I should say. Anyway, this episode starts off Well, sorry, I guess I should probably give you the synopsis here. Mordecai and Rigby hire an imaginary hard-partying celebrity for their party at the park that they must keep secret from Benson while he takes the night off. I didn't know. It says imaginary here, but I'm assuming that they don't mean imaginary in the show, because he seems to exist in the show. He's like a concrete character. He's not a figment of their imagination, as far as I can tell. But anyway, the episode starts off here at the park house, okay, and I think we still get the birds chirping like we do always. But the first thing we see is like a moth or a fly fluttering around, and it turns out Mordecai and Rigby are up in the attic. Rigby is swatting at this fly or moth or whatever the insect is with a feather duster. And Mordecai's like, dude, quit messing around, give me a hand with these boxes. And Rigby's like, I'm busy. And he misses and he hits what appears to be a box with like a blanket over it, and dust goes flying everywhere. And then, in like obvious plot device fashion, kind of like the regular show sometimes pokes fun at, the blanket or the cover, the cloth just falls off the box, and it's a mini fridge. And then the door swings open by itself, just kind of like, we got to move the plot along, so here you go. And it's full of these pops or sodas, not the character pops, but like cans of soda pop. And they both gasp and they go over and they're like, Radicola. And they both make, a big deal about it. And Rigby says, these were the best. And Mordecai turns the can around and you find out that these were from the 1984 Olympics. And that kind of brings up something where it's like, well, obviously this show takes place not in the 80s, it's modern time. But how modern is it? Is it like the 90s where the Sega Master System or the Atari type games that they're playing are, modern? Probably not. It's probably modern times. But honestly, I don't even think about it that way. You could, I guess, think about, hey, it's in modern times or modern for whatever time it came out. But they're just so poor that they only have the money to afford stuff from the past. Or you could just view it kind of like how I view it and say, who cares? They're just paying homage to things in the past, and that's why the show's great. Or one of the reasons, at least. Or maybe they all coexist at once. Who knows? Maybe the universe changes. In these early episodes, it changes back and forth between time frames. I don't think it's that way. I just kind of view it as what it is. Hey, this is fun because we've got nostalgia coming into play. I don't know. But anyway, we find out that these cans are from 1984. And I think, honestly, that these are... the closest thing that these remind me of is Jolt Cola, which was a pop back in the day that was advertised like twice the caffeine, maybe twice the sugar. I don't know. So much times the energy, something like that. The 90s equivalent of that would be like Surge. But the Surge cans were green. Jolt was, I think, a little bit more red and white. But anyway, and in this universe, caffeine, or at least pop, kind of serves as in the place of alcohol. Hot wings and pop. Or hot wings and soda, So if it's twice the caffeine like Jolt Cola has, it's like, wow, this is the really hard stuff, But anyway, they hear Skips and Pops talking downstairs, or Skips and Benson, I'm sorry, talking downstairs in Benson's office, and Skips is saying to Benson, come on, and Benson's like, no. And then we find out that Skips is trying to get Benson to take the night off. He's like, you work too hard. You should just go home. He's like, I got too much to do. Skips eventually convinces him. He's like, all right, but you're my eyes and ears, Skips. And he goes, okay. So Mordecai and Rigby are still upstairs, and they're like, okay, no Benson plus soda equals, and they're like, party, and then they do the whole, all that jazz. Scene wipes, and we see them on a computer, and they're in the computer room. And Rigby's like, that one, and Mordecai's clicking boxes. Although he clicks multiple times, it seems like, and I think they only click like one box, it shows visually. But they're inviting people to the party, and Muscle Man and Fives walks in, and Muscle Man's like, hey, get off the computer, it's my sign-up time. You know how long my downloads take. And at this point, I'm thinking, what's Muscle Man going to download? He's probably downloading, like, ROMs of solitaire games on, like, the Super Nintendo or something. I don't know, on dial-up or some crap. Who knows? But they're like, no. He's like, your party suck anyway. And they kind of get into a little bit of an argument, and he's like, your party's going to be lame anyways. Just something like that. It's not really good, like, line. But Fives gives him a high five, like, he said the wittiest thing ever. So they cut the scene, and it's now Mordecai and Rigby at the dining table in the kitchen. And they are revisiting that trope that they started in the first episode of making up their impromptu raps, and they're getting groceries out of a bag, the supplies they got for the party or groceries or whatever. And Mordecai's like, it got me some chips, it got me some dip. And then Rigby says, some call me cheap, a freeloader, but I bought me some cups for that old school soda, something like that. It's kind of ridiculous. And he pulls out some looks like Dixie cups out of the bag. And then Mordecai probably has the best line. He says, I don't mean to brag, I don't mean to boast. He pulls out some hummus and he says, but here's some hummus for your mini toasts. And he pulls out some hummus, these little mini toast looking crackers, And then they both start yelling hummus, hummus. And they do it a few times. And Benson walks in and he said, why are you yelling hummus? And they're, oh, no reason. They try to cover up all the groceries as if them having hummus is evidence that they're going to have a party or something. He's like, whatever, no matter. I'm leaving tonight or something. I won't be in tonight. I'm going home. But you better be on your best behavior because this guy's my eyes and ears. And Skips is standing there and he's just nodding along. And then when Benson walks out, he strolls out. He walks out like Conor McGregor kind of walks, Just through that big strut with his hips forward and everything. And the only thing Skip says is, this better be some party. And then the scene wipes and we have Skips and Pops on the couch. Pops is asleep. And up above Skips' right shoulder, to the left of him, we see is another one of those pictures of Pops that's on the wall. And this one's just him staring off, just at nothing in the blank space, it seems like. But I love seeing these pictures of Pops up at the house, though, because they're seemingly random. And there's consistency in them. They're like the same picture in the same place a lot of the times. But it's just like, who choreographed these poses for Pops, But anyway, it's a boring party so far. And Rigby and Mordecai walk in, and Rigby's like, this party's off the hook. We got soda. And they hand it to Skips, and he's like, 1984, are you sure we can even drink this? And they're like, yeah, it's aged to perfection. And then Muscle Man walks in. You get the usual, told you this party was lame, just kind of the usual banter. And you get a ring at the door, though, and it's 3 people that walk in. And you think it's party guests. They're like, oh, sorry, we thought a party was here. And they kind of turn around and they walk out. Muscle Man's like, he just starts laughing, I told you this party is so lame. And, it's not really like the most memorable scenes, but they walk into the other room and there's this, I don't want to say magically, but there's this unusually placed TV in the kitchen. Like it doesn't seem like it's usually there. And they're like, we got to find something to do. And they hit the TV and they don't even hit the power button. They just like hit it on the top, kind of like Mordecai did with Rage Against the TV, where they're playing the hammer. He beats the top of the TV while Rigby's trying to play it. But anyway, the TV comes on and it's right at the beginning of a commercial, very conveniently. And it's like, does your party totally suck? And it's a Party Pete commercial. So Party Pete is this guy that you hire to come for $50 an hour. He'll come and he will spice up your party and, get it started and all this jazz. He's kind of like the life of the party for $50 an hour. And they have some like robotic type voice work on, Party Pete. And he's like laying there. It really reminds me of the Dr. Quarters, or not Dr. Quarters, but the the King of the Hill episode where Khan becomes Dr. Quarters. I don't know if he takes on that persona. He gets one of those self-help videos. I don't know if it's like Dr. Money or Dr. Dollar or whatever. But, it's like the guy that's one of those get-rich-quick schemes. Horrible advice for long-term business plans. This is kind of like one of those commercials. And it really reminds me of that because he's sitting on an ice sculpture of himself right by the crotch. He's sitting right by this a huge ice sculpture, and it's, $50 an hour, blah, blah, blah. And Rigby's like, we need that guy, or maybe Mordecai says it. One of the other one's like, why would you want to hire that guy? And before we go on any further, I want to mention that Party Pete is based off of Swedish musician Gunther. And I wouldn't know that except they had said it on the wiki, or Gunter maybe. And I looked up who this guy was, and I'm not making judgments on music here, but don't look him up. Like the only song I looked up of him, it said No Pantalones. And I thought, well, hey, I had this like kind of two guy kind of club / bluegrass band that me and my roommate were in right around this time frame. We called ourselves the Pantaloons. And yeah, because that was due from confusion over an Aqua Teen episode, the MCP pants, where Frylock walks in and Meatwad's listening to MCP pants, and Frylock tries to get him to listen to Bach and Beethoven, and he's like, Bach, Beethoven, lay down with the P pants. And he's like, well, actually, Meatwad, they wore pantaloons back in those days. And I thought he said, and then Meatwad says, shoot, boy, you get shot wearing that in my hood. And I thought, you'll get shot wearing pantaloons in my hood. I mean, I don't know why. That's just great dialogue. There's so many layers to that. But anyway, I thought Frylock said, I was just watching it in passing the first time, and I thought Frylock said they were major pantaloons. Like, I thought that meant, like, just using context clues, I kind of thought that meant, well, they were major musical rebels, like Bohemians or something, no, pantaloons were pants. Well, anyway, this Gunther guy, he's made a song called No Pantalones. And I look on it, and he maybe says 2 words for the whole song, and the video's horrible because it's people running around without pants on. And it just, yeah, don't look it up. It's yeah, but you can definitely see the resemblance to Party Pete. Like, actually, I think Party Pete is a much more interesting persona than Gunther. But yeah, so there's Gunther for you. So Rigby's like, why do you even want a guy that's going to come here for $50 an hour? He's just going to eat all our food. Mordecai says, do you have a better idea? And the wiki says that this is kind of one of those memes. Do you have a better idea when you just want to add random music to a video? I don't know. But I can understand that, because he says, do you have a better idea? And then it cuts straight to Rigby putting a cassette in the tape player, like the boombox, and the music's like dun 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 dun. You hear a slide whistle. It's like circus music basically, and Rigby's standing there going, yeah, 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 yeah. It's so stupid. But I can relate to this because this is how I feel every time I play music in class. Like, I'm a teacher, and sometimes the kids want to listen to music, like while they're taking a quiz, or if they're doing like independent work, or maybe working in groups, like doing stuff where I'm not up talking, or I'm, while they're doing something that seems almost like a monotonous or something. I don't even want to say monotonous, but while they're doing things that, while we break out into groups, and I'm going around helping groups individually, sometimes they don't like doing that in silence. They've learned, I guess, to stop asking that, because apparently my music sucks, because that's how I feel every time I play music in class. Is I'm up there, I'm not really dancing, but that's how I feel. Like Rigby on the inside, I'm yeah, and I guess the music to them just sounds like this crap that Rigby's playing. Because, I mean, dang, let's see, the music. What was the last one I played? Oh yeah, case in point. This was probably a week ago. As of today, this is 9/30/23, so September 30th, 23. Probably a week ago, I saw that Mr. Brightside had turned 20 years old at some point, I guess in the month or whatever. And it just popped in my head. I just said, you guys know that Mr. Brightside turned 20 today? And somebody's like, who's that? And I'm like, no, it's a song. Nobody has ever heard that? And I didn't realize that this song's older than they are. To me, it feels like, hey, that's a new song, but one kid's like, yeah, I've heard it. And the one kid did like it. And so they said, well, can we listen to music? So I turned that on, and they heard it, and it was probably 20 seconds into it. And some of the kids actually enjoyed it, you could tell, and some were indifferent. And one kid just yells out, turn this off. It's horrible. Like they're just like, can you please turn this off? This is horrible. And I'm thinking, really? I mean, I was not a Killers fan when they came out, and I'm probably still not the biggest fan, but I can, appreciate the production of that song, and how actually you can hear that some of the production techniques, like that distorted voice and a little bit of the reverb type of feel that they have, that's still pretty prevalent in indie rock today. I know they're not an indie rock band, but that they made some waves there. And I've come to realize, though, that these kids, like, if it's not Morgan Wallen, they don't want to hear it. Or who's that other country guy? I thought Morgan, for the longest time, I don't keep up with country. I thought Morgan Wallen was was a woman there for a while. I was like, who is she? Because Morgan, where I'm from, that's a very common female name. Anyway, they'd always get so mad, and I didn't understand why they were getting mad. I'm like, look, I don't listen to country. I don't like it. And that's weird because I've played bluegrass for so long, and I do like old country, but man, I'm just over new country. It just so paint by numbers. Anyway, I'm not going to go off on that rant, but they don't like anything. Like one kid, I played Seal, Kiss of a Rose, and it wasn't, I mean, we didn't make it 5 seconds into it, and he's like, this sucks, turn it off. And I'm thinking, you are so, you demand such instant gratification that you can't get through the intro of a song. You can't hold judgment past the intro of a song. So you can't withhold judgment, I should say. So I've learned to stop presenting any form of art to children, because even if it's not mine, it's very disheartening to think that, I mean, Still Kiss of a Rose, and the kids that do, like, I have 8 different classes. So the kids that do make it through to the chorus or whatever, by then, some of them are like throwing their hands up there like, man, I love this song. I know this song. And some of them are even like, this is on that Batman movie. And I'm like, yeah, yes, this kid's going to make it, But there's just so many of them that are just so impatient and opinionated, and it's just very disheartening. It's like, no wonder their peers are afraid to show me like stuff that they're drawing or any type of art that they're involved in, because they've probably showed it to their friends before, and their friends are just like, it sucks, before even seeing it. I mean, it's very, like, it really kind of ruins my day when that happens. But anyway, sorry, that's what it feels like whenever, like, I play any type of music in class. I feel like Rigby, and everybody's just like, this is horrible, But yeah, so that's the situation we're in right here. Rigby's playing really bad music, dancing, and everybody's just like, no, this just isn't fine. Pops is like holding his head like it's hurting his head, And I love this line. Rigby's like, Skips, dance with me. And he goes, don't touch me. Like the he's really summoning the Joker off of a Mask of the Phantasm. Don't touch me, old man. All that jazz. So then, to make matters worse, the cassette tape, the tape starts unwinding from the casing, and those are a nightmare to get back together if you even can. But either that, or maybe it's just like the music's so bad that the boombox decides to put it out of its misery or something. But anyway, you hear a whistling noise like a bomb's dropping, and then instead of an explosion, you hear a fart noise, and Russell Man goes, you hear that? That's the sound of your party failing, losers, So he's still laying it on pretty heavy. That's pretty in character for Muscle Man. It's not anywhere near his most memorable spots, but at least it's following consistently with his character. And then we cut to Benson in his apartment, and he's in a robe, and he's looking out the window, and he's just keeping an eye on the park house, and he's like, relax, Benson. Skips has got this, Benson. Everything's going to be okay, Benson. He's talking to himself. So then he's in the bathroom. This is something that, like, it'll kind of go over your head if you don't think about it, but he's in a robe, like he's covering up himself from being naked, and he's in the bathroom. So he takes the robe off, and this is like a kid's show, but it's like he takes the robe off, and I guess that signifies him being naked, and he gets in the bathtub, but it's no different from how we see him any other time in the show. Like it's literally the exact same character model, everything. So anyway, he's in that just strikes me as kind of weird, but I can see the humor in it too. In fact, I think it's pretty funny, but I don't know if anybody else finds that funny or not, but I'm just thinking it's one of them things you kind of got to pay attention to see the humor in it, I guess. But anyway, he's in the bathtub and he's relaxing and all that, and then we cut back to the house. And as claimed by Mordecai, this party has hit rock bottom. And he says, Muscle Man was right. And he points at Rigby, and Rigby says, what are you doing? And he says, I'm calling Party Pete. And he dials 2 numbers on the phone, like it's just beep, beep. And I guess it starts speed dialing for some reason. And then a guy on the other end's like, hello, like he's just woken up from a deep sleep or something, which kind of, that not to kind of spoil anything, but that kind of does go. You can tell I don't think they had this in mind for the episodes he comes back in, but that kind of goes hand in hand with what's to come with Party Pete. But anyway, it just seems like he's been on a giant rave or something. He's just been woken from a slumber. And, they're calling Party Pete over, and they run out in the other room. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Or Skip says, all right, that's enough. Let's go. And, the two guys, they're Mordecai and Rigby are trying, whoa, 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 where are you going? Where are you going? Skip says, we've had enough. We're going home. And then Muscle Man delivers the best line of the whole not show, but the whole episode. He says, yeah, it takes more than cheap soda for a party. He says it takes guests with breasts, and mine don't count. That always gets me. Like, it catches me off guard. It's like, well, they snuck another one in there. And they edited that in the UK, and it kind of doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense, but it's like it would get maybe a pity laugh or something in the UK because it's in character, but it doesn't really land all that great. What he says is it takes. Let's see. He says it takes guests with chicks, and my mom doesn't count, which is kind of like, okay, well, whatever, So definitely the American version is much funnier, in my opinion, for this episode. So Mordecai and Rigby are like, look, there's some coming. They're on their way. Trust us. And Skips is like, it's 10:30. Nobody else is coming. And then the doorbell rings, and everybody's surprised. And Mordecai says, ha ha, I wonder who that could be. And he runs to the door, and it's Party Pete. He opens it up, and Party Pete, the first thing you see is he's pelvic thrusting. And it's a zoom in. That's like the second or third time they pulled that off in this series. They had the pelvic thrust of death. They had the pelvic thrust from Mordecai and the Rigbys, which was a zoomed in close up of the guys' crotches. And then they had this one, as far as I can think. There's probably some I'm looking over, but they were definitely trying to pack in as many pelvic thrusts as they could, in these early seasons, trying to get away with as much as they could. But that's the first thing you see, and it's to an EDM song too, or a dance song. It's like, to the bass or the sub, the kick is really what it is. It'd be a kick, thump, thump. But right when it does that, he does that synchronized with the visuals are synchronized with the music there, and he's wearing like these. They almost look like the gold glasses that Elvis would wear in his later days, and the later years, the TCB glasses, And he does look like Gunther, but he's got much more of like a butt chin, and his teeth are a little bit more bucked. I guess his mustache is a little bit further down his face, not more further, but further. But for that, Mordecai's like, how much money you got? And Rigby says $3. Mordecai says, I got $5, so that's $8. And they get there, and Pete's like, you got the money? He's got two girls with him, by the way. One's got a bow in her hair, and the other one's like she's got blonde hair. Anyway, he's like, you got the money, and he's like, how much money you got? $8. How long will that buy us? And he's like, $8, and he goes, about 10 minutes. And if you do the math, that's pretty much correct. 8 into 50 is 6 with, let's see, 2 left over. That's a fourth. So there you go. It's about $10 will buy them about 10 minutes. A little bit less, actually, but yeah, about 10 minutes. So it's like, fine, let's do this. Move in the ice sculpture instead of getting the big giant. Because that's what was advertised in the commercial, was you get a big giant promotional ice sculpture. Instead of getting the big giant Party Pete sculpture, they get an ice urinal that they move into the living room, which I thought was great. So once Janet and Chrissy get the ice urinal moved into the living room, which Mordecai and Rigby are just enamored with, they love the thing, but Party Pete gets in there, he starts spinning around. He pops in a new tape of music, which is really not much better than the last one that was in that Rigby had going. But Party Pete goes over and starts spinning around Skips, and he's just like spinning in place, and Skips, he thinks it's really cool, I guess. And Janet and Chrissy go over there, and they start dancing around Pops, and he gets really enthusiastic and starts doing like the Charleston or the two-step or something, I don't know, some old dance. And which is kind of in character for Pops, and at the same time, it's like, I think that's about the only time you ever see him enthusiastic about a female being around him, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, we get like a mini montage of Skips is bench pressing the two girls on a table, and Rigby's wearing a hat that says "so cool." Mordecai and Rigby go over and they start taunting Skips. So they're saying, in your face, yeah, in your face. And they're trying to do like a Swedish a voice, like an accent, but they sound like they're from Australia. So, go figure. Whatever. And then right when they do that, Pete cuts the music off and he goes, all right, 10 minutes up, let's go. And they're like, no, wait. Party Pete, wait, can't you stay? And here we got these. And, they take him one of the radical, and he's like, hey, I remember these. I guess one couldn't hurt. And he drinks one, and he's like, yeah. He's like, ah. And he says, you keep these coming, and I'll keep the party going, And he drinks another one. Like, he keeps crushing the cans. He drinks, like, instead of 2 or 3, and then he smiles. And it looks like his teeth's about to fall out the way the animation is. But just from that smile, Skips looks, and he's like, nothing good could come of this. And then people start filing in, and they're like, hey, I knew we'd find the party. They start gathering around Party Pete, and I've got it a still frame right now where he's dancing around. It's either Chrissy or Janet. You've got all these people around him, and you've got characters that they've kind of reused. I think there's one guy from the one of the Fist Pump episodes, or the Fist Pump episode, one of the guys from that. Some of these characters look pretty familiar, but here's where you can see the dude in the background. I think it's actually a woman, but the head of this woman looks like Rick from Rick and Morty. And this person reappears a few times. And I looked into this. There's a Reddit on this. I think the interview I read, one of the animators said, look, it was just a common animation style, or like an animation model or character model at the time that we used. It's just purely coincidental. I don't know. And to be honest with you, I mean, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't really care much for Rick and Morty. I watched through like the 4th season, and I don't know. I just don't care much for it. It seems like it's trying to be edgy just to be edgy, shock value type thing. It appeals to a lot of the kids at school, not so much me. And I know that's kind of hypocritical coming from a guy that absolutely loves Aqua Teen, but here's the thing. Aqua Teen, for me, those episodes are hit and miss. Hit or miss, I guess. But most of them are hit. Some of them, like the main last episode they did where they're, they've got the Bible in there, and they're really satirizing different religions. I don't care for that. Sorry. But most of the stuff for Aqua Teen, it really was just jokes for the sake of jokes, and it wasn't really, I mean, both sides of whatever the topic at hand was, both sides got, I don't even want to say fair representation, but you could view it at 2 ways. It was satirizing both sides of whatever argument or hot topic that was going on. Rick and Morty just seems like it's just trying to bash people's beliefs just to do it. And I could be wrong on that. I could be absolutely wrong, but it seems like more of a shock value type of comedy, and that to me just doesn't appeal. Anyway, it doesn't matter, that this isn't a Rick and Morty channel. It's, whatever. If you like Rick and Morty, go for it. But just thought it was interesting to point out here, because Rick Sanchez is a popular figure in animation, like it or not. So thought it was interesting for him to appear here. There's also at least one other character here that's wearing another one of those precursor to the excellent caps. I think I mentioned that in the high score episode. I watch these episodes in batches of 2 or 3s, and I see quite a few of them on these episodes the more I look for them. But yeah, there's a guy wearing one of these, kind of just walking around the party somewhere. And then we see that Party Pete is making his way around dancing. And when I say dancing, I just mean he's thrusting his pelvis at every woman at the party. And then either Mordecai or Rigby they're saying, oh man, this party is awesome. Check it out. The Centaurs even made it here. And the Centaurs are over there. And I don't know if the Centaurs are like cousins to the unicorns or whatever, because they love to party, or if they're related to the party horse that we see in future episodes. I don't think so, but maybe they're like an early idea. But we see the Centaurs over there by the ice sculpture, and they're kind of, one of them backs his hind up into the sculpture by accident, and he turns around and he says, suck on this promotional ice sculpture, or something like that. He pours one of the Radicolas down it, and then we see them throw it out the window. And, I guess that's not good, but Mordecai says, oh, check it out. And then Muscle Man's over there, and he's dancing with a girl, and High Fives is beside him, I guess, dancing beside him. I don't know. And they're kind of razzing him now. They're, hey, Muscle Man, you enjoying the party? You enjoying it now, whatever. And Muscle Man obviously doesn't care much for the remark. And then a guy that is, for some reason, on fire. I don't think we ever learn why, but he walks up to Mordecai and Rigby, and he says, hey, Mordecai and Rigbird, Remember how your toilet used to like flush and also how it used to not be on fire? Well, anyway, there's an angry guy on the phone here for you. Some guy named Benson. They hand him the phone, and that is like so humor of the time that this came out. Like that was like the big type of humor. I don't know where it came from. That kind of seems maybe like a little bit Bill Hader-ish influence from Saturday Night Live around that era, but I'm not sure. That was just a very popular type of humor I can remember. And anyway, I just thought I'd point that out. It seems like that's something I can remember from that time frame. So Benson's on the phone, and the first thing he says, "Is that a party I hear?" And then Mordecai's line, obviously, no, that's the TV. Benson obviously is not falling for it. He goes, "I think not. I think I'm going to pay a visit to you. I'll see you real soon." Then he hangs up, and they're like, "Oh, no, we got to find Party Pete. Get him out of here. Benson's on his way." And they look over in the corner, and I forgot to mention, it's been like this for a while, but like the house is like it's very dimly lit, and it's like a neon-looking purple light, so it's very ravish or underground dance clubbish, but they did a good job there setting the mood for the party, the animators did. But anyway, they find Party Pete over in the corner, and he's like doing some sort of weird electric cha-cha slide thing. I don't know, but it looks like he's drunken. He's the drunken master. Now he's drank around like 10 Radicolas or something, and he's like staring at the ground like almost like he's possessed, or he's like going Super Saiyan or something. Sorry. You knew that the Dragon Ball Z reference was coming. Sorry. You know what she's getting into when you listen to this. I don't like him any more than you do, but it looks like what it looks like, sorry. Anyway, they're like, "Party Pete, you got to stop." Riggy says, "You got to stop, man." And he goes and touches him, and it like shocks him. And Pete says, "Stop," but I don't want to stop. And then he rises up into the air, and he swells up really big like a balloon. By the way, we're right around the 8 or 9 minute mark, so obviously the surrealism's got to come into play here. But he starts spinning around like a disco ball, and lights are coming off of him. And what do we do? And of course, right on time, Skips comes up, and he's like, he's got too much energy. We're gonna have to give him more pop or more soda. After that, he'll put off more light, and he'll burn out like a star. So what they do, they take the rest of the Radicals, they say, "Let's do it," and they throw 6 at him, and he stops them with like telepathy and opens them up and like pulls the cola out of them all and drinks them all, and then just drops the cans. And he starts spinning faster and faster. More lights coming off of him. They're like, "It's not enough. What do we do? We need more." And they said, "I know where we can find more." So they go get the ice sculpture out of the yard, the urinal, because it had the Radicola that the centaur poured into it. And they throw it at him, and he like melts the sculpture and then pours the cola out of it and drinks it. And it's just enough to get it to blow up. And they're like, "Okay, he's going to blow, hit the deck." And just little things like this, seeing skip over to the wall and then dive behind a little round table is just great. Like, I don't even remember where everybody else took cover, but just seeing Skips, like, he knows, he's like, this is serious. So he dives behind a table. Party Pete explodes, and he blows a hole through the wall, and there's soot all over the wall. And one of the cool things here is if you look, you can really see that there is a step up in the quality of I don't know if I mentioned this the last episode or not, but like around this time frame in the series, there's a step up in the quality of the backgrounds of these episodes. Like, for instance, there's like a little detail back here where in the aftermath of the explosion, you see all the rubble. One of the pictures of Pops has like a beard of soot on it, and like a black earring almost. It looks like like a long black chain earring that's made of soot. And I'm kind of thinking that might be a throwback to the episode Dizzy, where Rigby paints or draws on his face with a Sharpie or a marker. I don't know if it is or not, but it really puts me in mind of that. But yeah, I didn't catch that the first couple times I watched this episode, but if you look in the background, sometimes you'll spot things like that. So I thought that's a pretty cool little detail. So in the aftermath, they're like, "Okay, we got to get this cleaned up. Benson should be here any minute now." And the Centaurs were like, "Wicked party, we'll help you clean up." And then, Pops, "Yeah, we'll help you." And they have like this little tiny mini montage where Skips is hammering on the stair banister, and they're sweeping up crap and they're scrubbing the walls. And on their way out, Benson's pulling up, and Chrissy and Janet get in the Party Pete van and drive off. We don't see where Party Pete's at. We don't see if there's anything left of his explosion or whatever. I have a feeling maybe they put him in the back of the van. I don't know. We don't really see that, though. They just drive off, and the Centaurs on their way out, they're like, "Wicked party, duders." And then Pop says, "Capital soiree." And Muscle Man's got a big handful or armful of garbage, and he's saying, I guess I was wrong about your party. He goes, it was pretty awesome. I think I'm going to go collapse in my bathtub now. And then Benson gets in there. He comes in and he's like, I caught you. And Mordecai and Rigby are just sitting on the couch playing video games. And you hear an oscillating noise, like a woo, 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 kind of like, it sounds like the ghost off Pac-Man. So it kind of sounds like they're playing Pac-Man, but you also hear like a bump, 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 bump. I'm not really good at the noises there, but you hear, it sounds like the noise either from like asteroids or maybe tanks or something like that, like one of the collisions. So they're Atari sound effects, but it sounds like a combination of games. But remember, I guess this is the regular show universe, so it doesn't really matter. I just think it's pretty cool. And Benson's like, I guess I was wrong about you guys. You know what? You deserve a reward. And they're like, oh. And he goes, no, really, you of all guys would appreciate this. Hang on one second. Yeah, he actually does. I went back and watched it, and he does kind of say that appreciate instead of appreciate. It's still got a little bit more of the long E in it, but it does kind of sound like appreciate. So he says, I've been saving this soda from the 1984 Olympics. And we're kind of like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, here, I'm going to go get it right now. So when I go back and watch this, it's actually, they do like the rule of three in comedy, the trick of three, you know. So Mordecai and Rigby, like, they respond like, like 3 times instead of 2, like I just described it. And on the third one, they say, wait, what? And then Vincent actually says, yeah, they're up in the attic. Come on, let's go. And then the last thing, it doesn't end on a big banger of a joke. Mordecai just says, dude, we're dead. And the episode ends, credits roll. So overall, this episode, it's still in that territory of fairly memorable, I guess, and familiar, but it's a fairly memorable episode. It's not great by regular show standards. It's not like as good as My Mom or maybe not even High Score, but it's still, I would consider it I don't think that the chain of good episodes has been broken yet. So I told you we would start on a block of really good episodes. And honestly, I don't think it gets broken for like another couple of episodes until Benson Be Gone. And even then, the very next episode's great again. But Benson Be Gone, honestly, it's not a bad episode. So still tune in for that one. Because I went back and rewatched it, and I don't have fond memories of it because I remember watching it. It kind of disturbed me, not like kept me up at night or whatever. I had nightmares, but there was just some disturbing imagery, which I really, honestly, when I think back, I think it's an homage to the Twilight Zone. But it's got a lot of little things like that to point out. The weakness of Benson Be Gone, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but the weakness of that episode is the characters that aren't the main cast. They don't stick around for long. They're not memorable. You know, they're not like, even like the Centaurs are somewhat memorable in this episode, but they're not like recurring non-main cast. They're not, I don't know, they're not like the 2 cops that we see that we haven't gotten there yet. I love those guys though. The guys that keep doing the donuts and yelling yeah over and over and over again. Love that. But Manetti and what's his name? I don't know. But anyway, they're nothing like that. I looked on a tier list of characters in the regular show the other day, and the main antagonist on this was like bottom tier. And actually the non-main character that was in this, the guy that, spoiler, used to be the park manager. That's not really that big of a spoiler. I mean, he just flat out says it. But that guy, he's also one of the least liked non-main characters. So that's kind of like a weak point of that episode. But there is a lot of nostalgic throwbacks or tips of the hat, I guess, to a lot of those shows like Twilight Zone in that episode. And there's actually some really freaky, kind of scary parts when you get to the surreal parts of that episode. But anyway, this episode, the strong points of it were definitely the background, the stuff that goes on in the background, and just the production value as a whole. Seems like it's stepped up on a fairly constant rate, or at a fairly constant rate, as we've gotten into season 2. The backgrounds have gotten better. You get little details thrown in. Not a big deal is made about them. You may even overlook them, but they're still in there. Let's see. We get the lighting is really good. Just things like that. But there's also, I mean, Party Pete, he's kind of a funny character in himself. And just the fact that you can get away with a guy in a white jumpsuit going around pelvic thrusting all the time. which was changed in the UK version from what I read. I think I read that already to you, but on the wiki it says he's tapping his foot. But in the US, we get him pelvic thrusting a lot. That's funny. The ice sculpture of him in a Speedo, the ice sculpture of a urinal, all that's that's all kind of funny. So overall, I'd give this episode probably I'd say somewhere between a 6.5 and a 7. And it's not one that I would go back and rewatch every time I was binge watching the series. I mean, if I do binge watch, I would, but like if I just got the choice to watch, it's not one that I would immediately go to and watch. But also, I would say definitely go through and watch it the first time if you're going to just go through the regular. I'd say that about all the episodes, just to kind of see where the show's coming from and what it came from and what it ended up being. But this wouldn't be the first episode that I would recommend a newcomer to the series to watch, because it doesn't really have all that many super big laughs coming at you really fast to get somebody initially interested. It's not a really good hook episode, but it gives you a good feeling of the vibe of the series as a whole. And you know what I'm talking about. They're just sitting there at the beginning, and then all of a sudden around the 8-minute mark, something crazy happens, and then they're just sitting there at the end of the episode. That's how a bunch of the episodes are. If I wanted to get that point across to a first-time viewer, I might show them an episode like this. But not one of my favorite episodes, but like I said, it fits in this block. It fits in this block of really good episodes. And overall, I think, it's aged fairly well. It's been, 10 years? Well, actually, 12, 13 at the time you're listening to this. So it's been, 13 years. I think it's aged pretty well for that amount of time. So next episode we're going to have is Brain Eraser. It's very good, in my opinion. It's a pretty good episode. So stick around for that one. Until then, I don't know what else to say. As always, if you could like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is you do for the podcast, suggest it to a friend. As of the recording of this video, I think I've had 19 plays. I've put out 3 podcasts so far, so 19 plays. Yeah. Maybe I got like 9 subscribers, which is 8 more than I thought I'd have. So doing pretty well in that regard. I would like to get it up, but beggars can't be choosers. Anyway, appreciate you listening. If you made it that far, if you made it this far, thank you very much. And feel free to join the Discord. Feel free to reach out to us on our email, leave us a voice message on the Discord. Maybe I'll be able to figure out how to access that. And till then, it's just been a regular show about the regular show. Sayonara.